Okay, so welcome back to the deep dive. We're all about taking, a big pile of information and pulling out the really useful stuff for you.
Absolutely.
We figure you're probably busy, you want to get right to the point.
Yeah.
And today, we're diving into a really interesting one. Peter Walsh's It's All Too Much workbook. Now, I'm guessing a lot of you listening are already pretty on top of things, You like being organized.
Right.
But what we're going to do today isn't really about the basic stuff. We're going to dig into Walsh's approach and see if there are any little nuggets, any sort of like surprising angles we might have missed, even if we think we're experts.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a workbook, right? So it's meant for actually doing stuff, taking action. So even if
Yeah.
the ideas seem familiar, when you actually put them into practice, well, you might be surprised by what you discover.
Totally. That's what we're all about here, finding those aha moments.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's just dive in. What's the big idea? What's the main thing that Walsh wants us to understand from the get-go?
I think what's really cool here is how Walsh starts out. He says, your home is where you live, breathe, rest, love, eat, and create.
Right.
And it's such a basic idea, but he's saying that clutter gets in the way of all of that. Like it actually prevents us from fully experiencing those things in our own homes.
That's a really nice way to put it, because it doesn't matter if you're super organized or just starting out. Everyone wants a home that, works for them. Right?
Exactly.
It's not about being a minimalist. It's about having a space that supports the life you want to live.
Exactly. And to help us really look at our own spaces, the workbook starts with some really direct questions.
Okay.
They're not just surface level. They're designed to uncover what he calls lurking problem areas, spots where clutter has become so normal that we don't even see it anymore.
Okay, so, we're so used to it, it's become invisible.
Right.
And even someone who thinks they're super organized could probably benefit from these questions, just to, double check.
Yeah.
So let's try a few, just as a thought experiment, for everyone listening. Could you have a party right now without, a crazy cleaning session beforehand?
Right.
Do you have a mountain of plastic bags that just seems to multiply? Can you actually clear off your desk in under a minute? And when was the last time you actually ate at your dining room table?
Oh, yeah.
And this one, I think a lot of people can relate to. Do you have to move, laundry, toys, maybe even a kid, just to get into bed?
Right.
These are real-life situations.
Yeah, and the point isn't to make anyone feel bad. It's just to help us see where things might be, a little bit off.
Yeah.
Places where maybe stuff is getting in the way of us actually enjoying our homes, even if we don't realize it.
Right, those little daily annoyances we just accept.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you've thought about those questions and maybe you've noticed a few things. Walsh then goes on to tackle something really interesting. He calls it excuse busters. It's all about those reasons we give for holding on to clutter.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind, directly calling out those excuses?
I think what's really insightful here is he recognizes that those reasons, a lot of times, they're not really reasons. They're more like defenses. Like stories we tell ourselves to feel better, even though they might be holding us back.
Yeah.
So by facing those excuses head on, Walsh wants to help us break down thinking that supports the clutter in the first place.
Changing your mindset, right?
Exactly. Moving from excuses to honestly assessing the situation.
So instead of just cleaning up, we're actually trying to understand why we have clutter in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of those common excuses he talks about, and what are the busters he suggests?
One that everyone uses is, I might need it one day.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
And Welsh's response is, if I can't use it today, right now, in my current life, then I don't need it. And he even adds, just in case, thinking keeps you from living in the present.
Ooh, I like that.
It's a powerful shift.
Right, it forces you to really think about, the value of that thing right now.
Yeah, and what you might be missing out on by keeping it.
Okay, what's another common excuse?
Another one is, I don't know how it got like this.
Right, it just magically appeared.
Right. And Walsh says, it doesn't matter how the clutter got there. What matters is that you get rid of it. So it's not about dwelling on the past. It's about taking action now.
That's a good point. Sometimes we get so stuck analyzing how things got messy that we never actually get around to cleaning up.
Right.
Are there any other excuse busters that really stood out to you?
Yeah, this one comes up a lot, especially when people live together. All this stuff isn't mine. I'm just holding it for someone else.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded other people's stuff.
Exactly. And Walsh is pretty clear on this one. He says, if it's not yours, get it out of your house.
Yeah, no excuses.
It's about setting boundaries. Your home shouldn't be a storage unit for other people's things.
Totally. And you mentioned earlier the power of language, how calling these things excuses instead of reasons can actually make a difference.
Right. It's a subtle change, but it helps us question those justifications.
Right, like, are these actually good reasons?
Exactly.
Okay, so now we're thinking more critically about our clutter. Where does Walsh want us to go from here?
He wants us to think about our homes as a reflection of ourselves and our goals. Like, he compares it to curb appeal, the first impression your house makes from the outside.
Okay.
But he wants us to think about the curb appeal of the inside. Like, what's the first impression you get when you walk in the door? What does it say about you?
I like the curb appeal of your own space, not just for other people.
Right. And he asks you to think about how you imagined your home when you first got it. Like, what kind of life did you picture yourself having there? And then he asks, was being surrounded by clutter part of that vision?
I'm guessing for most people, the answer is no.
Right. And seeing that disconnect between what we want and what we actually have can be a really strong motivation to change.
And he talks about money too, right?
Yes, he says that our home is a big financial investment just as much as it is an emotional one. And spending money on things we don't need while ignoring important home repairs is like doing a disservice to ourselves and our families. Like, you have a closet full of clothes you never wear but a leaky roof. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It's a good point about thinking about where our money is going and how does the state of our home affect other parts of our lives, like our work, relationships, things like that.
Walsh wants us to see the big picture, he asks. Does your home help you be productive at work? Does it create a space for good family time? Can you have friends over without being embarrassed? Does your home reflect your accomplishments and help you feel good about yourself? He's saying that our surroundings really affect our inner state and our ability to do well in different areas of our lives.
Right. Our physical space impacts our mental and emotional space. Now, for those of us who live with other people, how do we get everyone involved in this whole decluttering thing?
This is so important to Walsh. He says, the house is for the whole family.
Okay.
So everyone needs to be involved if you want real change to happen.
Makes sense.
He says, if people are involved in the process, they'll be committed to the outcome. It becomes a family project, not just one person's mission.
It's about teamwork.
Yeah.
So how do we get everyone on board?
He suggests using vision boards where everyone can visually show what they want each room to feel and look like.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It makes the conversation more concrete, you know? He also talks about room function charts. This is where each person thinks about how they use each room, how they'd like to use it, and what needs to change.
Okay.
Then everyone comes together, compares their charts, and tries to come up with a plan that works for everyone.
It's a great way to start talking and maybe uncover some, like, hidden conflicts about how people are using the same space.
Right. And he suggests using questions like, what do you want your friends to feel when they come into this room? What's the most annoying thing about this room right now?
Right.
And importantly, what are you personally willing to change to make this room better?
I like that last one. It's about taking responsibility.
Exactly.
It's not just about complaining. It's about actually doing something to improve things.
Right. And he makes it clear that even parents don't always have the final say. Everyone needs to compromise and respect each other's opinions.
Okay, so we've talked about the big ideas, identified some problem areas, tackled our excuses, thought about how our home reflects who we are, and we've talked about getting the whole family involved. Now, what are some actual steps we can take to start decluttering?
He has a system called the FAST Kickstart. It's meant to be a quick win to get you going so it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
I love that, a kickstart. So what does FAST stand for?
F is for fix a time. Like, schedule it in your calendar, treat it like a real appointment. A is for anything not used for 12 months, get rid of it. That's a simple rule to follow.
Yeah, no more holding on to things just in case.
Right. S is for someone else's stuff, give it back or toss it.
Yeah.
And T is for trash, gone forever. Get rid of the obvious stuff first.
That's a great starting point. The 12-month rule is a good one. It's easy to apply.
Yeah.
Now, Walsh also talks about decluttering specific rooms. Let's start with the master bedroom.
He calls the master bedroom the heart of your relationship. He says it's a haven, and clutter in the bedroom can really affect peace and connection in the family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He even asks you to think about your bed. Is it actually comfortable and inviting? And then there's the closet. He tells this funny story about someone who had 22 pairs of khaki pants.
22. That's a lot of khaki.
Yes, it shows how easy it is to lose track of what we have.
Totally. So what are some tips for tackling the bedroom closet?
He likes the one in, one out rule, especially for shoes. He also says to organize your clothes by type, but also by color and style.
Okay.
That way you can really see what you have and avoid buying duplicates.
Makes sense. What about kids' rooms? Those can be a challenge.
He knows kids' rooms change a lot as they grow, but he says it's important to teach kids how to keep their own spaces tidy.
Okay.
He talks about creating kids' bedroom zones, areas for sleeping, clothes, homework, toys.
Mm-hmm.
It helps create structure.
Right.
And he's a big fan of the one in, one out rule for toys, too. It teaches kids about making choices and letting go.
Yeah, that's a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
And what about all the artwork kids bring home?
He says to think of it as a ceremony, not a purge. Like, choose the pieces you really love and find a special way to keep them.
I love that. A ceremony, not a purge. It feels so much more respectful of the child's creativity.
Right.
What about the living room and family room? Those tend to be dumping grounds for everything.
Walsh says that's because they're supposed to be everything to everyone, which can make them lose their purpose. He says to have a family meeting and decide what the main function of those rooms should be.
Okay.
For DVDs, video games, CDs, he suggests putting them in categories, labeling everything clearly, and using the one in, one out rule.
Okay.
For books, he's pretty strict. If they don't fit on your shelves, they shouldn't be in your home. He also talks about magazines and catalogs, how they can really pile up. He says to try to reduce subscriptions and find a system for managing what you do get.
Right. Those can get out of control.
And he makes a distinction between a collection and just stuff.
Oh, that's important. What's the difference?
A collection is something you carefully choose and take care of. It has meaning. Stuff is just random things you accumulate.
I get it. It's about intention.
Exactly.
What about the home office? That's another place that can get out of hand quickly.
He's really big on managing paper in the office. He says to sort mail as soon as it comes in and find ways to stop junk mail.
Okay.
He has this idea of a tax trash calendar to help you know when it's safe to throw out financial documents.
Well, that's clever.
He also talks about digital clutter, like organizing your computer files and managing your email inbox so they don't become overwhelming.
Right. Digital clutter is a real thing, too.
Yeah.
Okay, how about the kitchen? That's the heart of the home for a lot of people.
He agrees. He calls it the true heart of the home. He talks about the magic triangle, which is the space between the sink, the fridge, and the stove.
Okay.
He says to keep that area clear because that's where most of the work happens.
Makes sense.
He talks about common kitchen clutter, like too many gadgets or pots and pans.
Right.
He suggests using a keep box and a lose box to decide what to get rid of. And he recommends using drawer dividers and other organizers to maximize space.
Okay, so you're really thinking about how to use your space effectively.
Yeah.
What about the dining room? It seems like that room often becomes a catch-all for everything.
Walsh is adamant about this one. He says the dining room is for meals, period. Don't let it become a dumping ground. He even questions why people keep fancy dishes they never use.
Yeah, if you're not using it, why keep it?
Exactly.
Okay, how about bathrooms? Those are small spaces, but they can get cluttered too.
He focuses on what he calls the personal and products zones. He says to give each family member their own space for toiletries, maybe a caddy or a drawer. And he says to regularly clean out the medicine cabinet and under the sink, getting rid of expired products and duplicates.
Right, those are good places to start. What about those bigger storage areas, like the garage, basement, attic? Those can be real black holes for stuff.
He says those are the places where we tend to keep things we don't really need anymore. He says to really think about what's worth keeping and try to get things off the floor, use shelves and vertical space.
Okay.
He even suggests pulling everything out once a year so you can really see what you have.
Wow, that's a big job.
It is, but it can be really helpful. And he says to create zones in the garage, like for gardening, tools, sports equipment, and to label everything clearly. He also talks about specific things like paint, chemicals, and holiday decorations, making sure you're only storing what you need.
So we've gone through each room. But how do we stay clutter-free? It's not a one-time thing, right?
You're right, it's an ongoing process. Walsh talks about the one in, one out rule as a key to preventing clutter from coming back.
Okay, so for every new thing that comes in, something old has to go out.
Exactly. He also suggests having a charity bag where you can put things you want to donate. And he reminds us that clutter costs money not just in wasted space, but maybe even in storage unit fees.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
He also has a quick trick called the trash bag tango.
Trash bag tango, what's that?
You grab a trash bag and just walk around your house, filling it up with things you can get rid of.
Oh, I like that. It's like a quick declutter session.
Right. And he emphasizes having regular routines, like a monthly or yearly clean out, to stay on top of things.
So it's about building habits, not just doing a big cleanup once in a while. Now, what about when we're shopping? How can we avoid bringing more clutter into our homes in the first place?
He says to check what you already have before you buy something new.
Okay, good point.
Make a shopping list and stick to it. And if you're tempted by something you don't really need, wait 48 hours before you buy it.
That's a good one.
He also suggests having an experience fund instead of buying more stuff, like save up for a trip or a concert instead of another sweater.
I like that. Experiences over things.
Right. And he's a big fan of sustainable practices, like repairing things instead of throwing them away, repurposing things, and shopping secondhand.
Yeah, those are all great tips. Well, this has been a really interesting look at Peter Walsh's It's All Too Much workbook. Even if you think you're already pretty organized, there's a lot to learn here.
I agree. It's not just about being tidy, it's about creating a home that really supports your life and values.
So for everyone listening, think about one little area in your home that could use some attention. What's an excuse you've been using to justify the clutter there?
Hmm.
And what's one excuse buster we talked about that you could use to finally tackle it?
And think about this. If all that clutter magically disappeared, how would you feel?
Right. Would you even miss it?
Or would you feel a sense of freedom?
That's a great question to think about. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.